Evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to tonight's partnership and reception with between E2E, with Deal Room, and with IWG. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Shalini Kemker. I'm the Chief Executive and the founder of E2E, and I'm delighted that nearly 200 people have registered for our virtual pitching reception this evening. Tonight, it's a different format. We're going to hear pitching from three exceptionally fast-growing companies. They are Vashi. Vashi is a modern digital-first jewelry brand. It's done extremely well. It's been listed in Profit Track 100 recently. The second company that we'll be pitching is Werqwise. It's a San Francisco-based state-of-the-art flexible workspace company, which has reached $7 million in sales in its first year. And also you'll be hearing from the founders and chairman and investor in Alba Bank. Alba Bank is Scotland's first SME-focused challenger bank. So those are the three companies pitching this evening. Tonight is also about learning about how companies are adapting to the global pandemic. These companies, they've not only been surviving, they have actually been thriving and leading the way in demonstrating the resilience that we as entrepreneurs have. So resilience, though, is not enough, is it? They need support, they need development, and they need investment to truly take their businesses to the next level. This is where you guys come in. The three companies you'll hear from are seeking investment this evening. All of them will be available for business discussions with you post tonight's event. So this evening, my challenge to you is, if you like the companies and feel that you can help them to grow, then ask yourself, please, how can you support them? What can you do to help them? Can you invest? Can you make some introductions, etc.? And please drop me or my colleague Urdu Gashi, who runs the investment arm of the business, a line so that we can put you in touch with them directly. We also know that entrepreneurship is only as strong as the community that supports it. And there's never been a more important time to back SMEs. I hope you'll agree. This is the time when we really need to support our fellow entrepreneurs. So in terms of the format for this evening, I'm shortly going to introduce our corporate partners, and I'd like to thank Richard Morris, the Chief Executive of IWG UK PLC, and also to thank Doug Traffilet, who's Chief Operating Officer for Deal Room. Doug's kindly agreed to give us some data and information, horizon scanning on the industries featured tonight. So Doug, thank you very much. Doug is the gentleman wearing the blue that you can see in front of you. And Richard is going to be talking about our joint offer and our partnership. We will then do a short poll, and it will be my pleasure to introduce our first entrepreneur who's pitching, who's Vashi Dominguez. So it's a brilliant name, and his name is actually behind the brand. So all the entrepreneurs will be talking about their companies, and they'll be kept to strict timings. And Sean, who's behind the scenes at the moment, our marketing and comms director, he's on hand with an electronic bell or buzzer. So when it comes to 15 minutes, if any of the companies pitching are beyond that, that buzzer will come on. We'll also do a short poll after each to ascertain your feedback. What do you think? And we'll do a Q&A for 10 minutes. So as you're listening to the pitches, please get ready with your Q&A. And what we'd ask you to do is to put up your hand on the chat function. You'll be able to see that you can raise your hand and you can use the Q&A. So if you have questions, which we welcome, after each 15-minute pitch, there's a 10-minute Q&A and a poll in between. Therefore, each company, Vashi, Werqwise, and Alba Bank, will have 15 minutes to pitch, followed by a poll and a Q&A. So tonight really cuts into the core of what E2E is about. As hopefully you all know by now, it's about enabling extraordinary entrepreneurship. We're supporting the fundraisers for the businesses pitching this evening. And if you wanted to raise money yourself for your business, be featured on future pitching events like this, or if you're an investor and you're looking actively for good investment opportunities, please do talk to us. Another means of supporting entrepreneurs at this difficult time is our membership. So we're continuing to offer complimentary membership to E2E. As many of you know, we'll soon be launching our digital platform. It's a match.com for business, as I like to call it. And this will enable people to buy, sell, connect, and collaborate with any of our 23,000 members digitally as well as offline. As we launch these new features, the complimentary membership will stay in place, so you don't need to worry that you have to pay. But if you'd like the upgraded membership, that will be at £25 a month, and that will be introducing a number of new features within the £25 a month membership. I wish the companies pitching tonight the very best and all of the success. Vashi is going to start in 10 minutes, followed by Werqwise and then Alba Bank. But now I'd like to hand over and ask Richard Morris, the Chief Executive of IWG Group PLC, just to talk about the great work that they do and our partnership and our offer to you. So I'm going to hand over to Richard, if I may.
Thank you, Shalini. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. I just wanted to sort of take a few moments to say, first of all, that we're very proud of our partnership with E2E. I'm from an organization called IWG, International Workplace Group, which isn't necessarily the brand that people would know us by. We operate a network of on-demand workspace in 120 countries across 1,200 cities. That comprises nearly 4,000 different locations, and they're branded different things. So we have multiple brands. Some that you might have heard of are Spaces or Regis. We also have brands called Base Point and Signature and HQ, Clubhouse, Central Working, to name but a few. And really what we're doing is we've been spending the last several years kind of building out national networks that combine together to create a unique global network of on-demand workspace. And I guess we were thinking at the time that, you know, we're responding to this gradual shift that's driven by technology for people to want more flexibility, companies to be more agile. And so we were going about repackaging the way in which office space and real estate is made available to businesses, from sole traders all the way through to Fortune 500 businesses. But the interesting thing about the last 7 or 8 months, of course, is that we've seen this very profound shift in how people work. And a lot of that is about working more flexibly and working in new ways, working differently to how we ever thought would be possible just a year or so ago. So right now, if we sort of bring up to speed what we're doing around the world with businesses, is really responding to the fact that individuals, no question, after this pandemic, will want to work in a much more fluid and flexible way, and companies will have workforces that work from home some of the time, work in the local office near to home, and maybe occasionally going to a corporate head office. So it's something that we call hybrid working. And we believe that it's really accelerated this shift towards using workspace more as a service rather than something that businesses do for themselves. So it's really all about convenience, flexibility, to support companies, support businesses to be more productive. And that's where our partnership comes in with E2E. You know, we've been working together with Shalini and the team for best part of 5 years now, because we think there's a real synergy between our physical network of workspaces, which are all about creating magic moments, creating connectivity, enabling people to collaborate and network. So we provide, if you like, the physical infrastructure for networking, and that goes nicely with E2E's role as this amazing community of entrepreneurs. The good thing is that it's very easy to use our network of on-demand workspace, and we provide special offers available to E2E members. And I'm going to talk about those in a second, but simply all you have to do is download the app onto your smartphone. That's the Regis app, and you'll find it in all of the app stores. And from that, you can find out everything you need to know about where we have our locations. And if you live in the UK, we've got 400 separate locations covering 110 towns and cities, all the main towns and cities and areas where people tend to live are covered by our network. And you can use the app. You can buy book a meeting room by the hour. You can book a private office for the day, or you can set up your head office at a location that suits you and pay month to month or pay monthly. The whole idea is whatever businesses need, where they need it, and how long they need it for. The special offer that we have for E2E members is also very simple. It is that any of our products, whether that's an office or a co-working membership, which are very popular right now, or a business address, any of those products, we provide 3 months free, as long as the agreement is 6 months, at least 6 months. Many customers sign for longer than that, but we'll provide 3 months free to all E2E members. We're also providing a 10% special offer discount on our meeting rooms and our day offices. And also, because we're in such a sort of strange place right now from a point of view of how we get our work done, we're providing access free of charge for the next 6 months to all of our business lounges. So these are very nice, conveniently located drop-in workplaces. We have them in airports, train stations, motorway service areas, as well as our business center network. You can go into those business lounges free of charge for the next 6 months. Try us out. You'll find a place near to home, those of you who are a bit sort of tired of the whole home working thing. And we look forward to welcoming you then. So look, thanks for listening. I'll hand you back to Shalini now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Delighted to have you partner with us, and it's really great working with IWG, and thank you for going through into the partnership. I'm going to ask Doug. Doug, you've got 4 minutes now, so I'm going to ask you to please talk about our partnership. And I just wanted to say thank you to Dealroom. We've recently signed a partnership with Dealroom. He's going to tell you about Dealroom, and he's going to talk to you about the sectors that are pitching this evening. So I'm handing over to Doug now.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And as Shalini said, I am the Chief Commercial Officer at Dealroom. We're an Amsterdam headquartered business in tracking the venture capital space, particularly young startups and scale-ups on a global basis. I'm based here in London. I've known Shalini for some time. And when I joined the company, I thought a very first call to make would be to E2E and make sure we wrapped up a partnership. So we're able to do that pretty quickly, and happy to be part of the network and contributing to the investment and venture scene here in the UK and certainly beyond the borders. What I was asked to do this evening is to put together some data slides around some of the companies that we're going to be looking at. So perhaps we could pull up the slide deck and I can walk you through some of the sector spotlights so the audience has a good sense on a macro picture of the sectors in which our 3 pitching companies operate in.
So we're going to have to whiz through them.
I will go through quickly.
Thank you.
And we can make these slides available if anyone wants them afterwards. Happy to share them with the larger audience. So let's click through then. Luxury commerce, e-commerce. Next slide, please. What we're looking at here is investment into European headquartered e-commerce and marketplace companies. The color of the boxes within the various bars are the deal rounds, and as you can see, on an overall basis, the amount of capital that's flooded into e-commerce and marketplaces since 2014 has risen significantly. And what you'll notice as well is that the lightest blue box are the mega rounds. Those are 250 million pounds or greater. And what that is an indication of how the industry has matured, that some of these younger companies back in 14 and 15 started up with some smaller funding. And as we move to the end of the decade, they're attracting larger rounds and larger investments, which corresponds, of course, to greater valuation. Next slide, please. As far as the size of the market, we market about 2.2 billion globally, and that is consumer spending in fashion. About 0.6 billion is in Europe, and then the global amount is the balance, and that's the blue box there. On the right, the penetration between digital and offline, traditionally it's been bricks and mortars, but on the digital side, we see that growing, and we certainly see with COVID that darker green box, again representing digital spend, is going to take up a larger part of the overall market. Next slide, please. Workspaces, we can talk about that very quickly. What we have here on the left is the amount of capital that has gone into, and this is on a global basis, prop tech venture capital funding. We're excluding mega rounds on the left chart here, largely because there's a few in there that really skewed things. But you can see it's a very clear steep upward trend in the amount of capital that's going into prop tech. And then what we'll see on the right is the number of rounds. And again, here, what we've excluded are the little small rounds into the space. But again, the amount of capital that's flowing into prop tech and the number of individual rounds is clearly on the rise. So investors, I think, are seeing this. And I think as well with technology, there's more and more that can be done. And so it's attracting capital, it's attracting entrepreneurs, and certainly is here to stay. Next slide, please. And here are just a few examples of some of the bigger rounds that we've seen, whether it be through ghost kitchens with Karma Kitchen or cloud kitchens, or as well as some of the other co-working space that we've seen historically, and with some of the investors here. Next slide, please. And this is a little poll we actually pulled from LinkedIn, and this was alluded to earlier by Richard. The idea that people work 9 to 5 in the office 5 days a week, I think, is a thing that's never going to be the case again, particularly with technology and Zoom calls like this. And what we'll see here is that 24% of respondents want to work in the office every day, but it looks like the vast majority, around 70%, would want to do it 1 or 2 days a week or 3 or 4 days a week. So the landscape for being in the office 5 days a week, I think, is a thing of the past, and is going to require nimble solutions like we've seen this evening. Next slide, please. And then SME banking, we'll get to the next slide. What we have here is that fintech is Europe's largest investment category. It's received more than 30 billion in venture investments since 2014. If we look on the left, we can see it's by far among the top categories, along with health and enterprise software, that are outpacing the likes of transportation, food, and so forth. And that's capital invested. And on the right, we're looking at funding rounds, again, excluding the very small kind of seed rounds or angel rounds. And we've got 2,400 rounds into the fintech space. So a very significant part of the venture economy, and again, here to stay. Next slide. What we have here, the different colors represent the different years. And as you can see on the left, with retail banking and SME banking, there's been a huge spike in interest and investment, particularly in 2019, amount of capital that's flowing into those spaces. So again, attracting a lot of investors, and I think that's a result of a lot of innovative ideas and leaders that are coming into that space and how they're making a difference in the economy. And as far as where the headquarters of those companies are, this is a heat map, and clearly it's in the United Kingdom. There's in 2017, there's a couple outliers in Switzerland we see there at the bottom. But as far as the capital flowing into fintechs and banking startups. It's clearly in the United Kingdom and on a clear upward trend, which is not surprising. And that's all I've got. Thank you, guys. And if anyone's interested in getting a copy of these slides, I'm happy to share, whether you want to contact me directly, douglas@dealroom.co, or you can get it through the team at E2E.
Brilliant. Thank you, Doug. Thank you. You've really set the scene and given us a really good insight into all three sectors. So really appreciate it. So without much further ado, Vashi, you're on now for 15 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Shalini. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is well. I'm Vashi Dominguez, founder and CEO at Vashi. Just want to start by giving 3 highlights. Our business has grown 10 times in the last 3 years, and management believes that we will grow a further 10 times in the next 4 to 5 years. We were hit quite hard by COVID, but have recovered strongly, growing sales 9 times over since April. It's in just 6 months, and we're now above pre-lockdown levels. This is a tech-driven, high-growth, omni-channel business. Retail is driven by online, which provides a highly scalable funnel. We have leading expertise in the market and a clear path to exit. So what is Vashi? Vashi is an ethical, fast-growth, fine jewelry brand that offers better jewelry in a better way. What we do is bespoke, responsibly crafted fine jewelry at a fair price. How we do it? By operating ethically and disrupting the traditional supply chain to bring jewelry manufacturing in store and welcome consumers to the heart of the design and making process. And the reason we do it is that we believe that something you made means more than something you bought. The business is tackling the 3 largest problems with our category. These problems are price, experience, and product. In terms of the price, there is a problem with the value proposition because fine jewelry is inaccessible from a price standpoint for mass market consumers. We're offering luxury quality below traditional retail prices. The second problem is with the customer experience. Fine jewelry stores are typically elitist and intimidating. We have fine jewelry stores in prestigious locations that are both accessible and welcoming. Finally, there is a problem with the product because consumers today must choose between wide choice and customization on the internet or very limited choice with no customization in physical stores. At Vashi, we bring all the choice and customization of the internet into physical stores. Our mission is to make bespoke fine jewelry accessible to everyone by addressing price, ethics, and intimidation, and by welcoming customers to the heart of the design and making process. And our vision is to establish Vashi globally as the #1 bespoke fine jewelry brand. In terms of the business model, by circumventing traditional supply chain channels, designing and manufacturing jewelry in our stores, and selling direct to the consumer, we're able to provide higher quality fine jewelry with an emotive customer experience, all at a fair price. Our industry is highly fragmented, but the 2 main groups are online retailers and traditional brick and mortar. Online retailers typically don't have inventory. As a result of that, they have low gross margins. Traditional retailers have inventory of finished goods, ready-made jewelry, and rely on getting customers off the street. As a result of this, they have high fixed costs and inventory that is subject both to markdowns and write-offs. At Vashi, we have an omni-channel retail model, so we use the internet as an scalable funnel, and we use the stores to build trust and credibility. We have an inventory model, but instead of having ready-made jewelry, we have loose diamonds and settings. Therefore, we don't suffer any of the fashion risks, such as markdowns and write-offs, since all items are made to order. The original business model is underpinned by an innovative supply chain that enables us to generate high margins with an omni-channel retail strategy, delivering sales density in the stores currently double higher than the industry leader, which is Tiffany & Co. The quality that we offer is similar to the high-end brands such as Cartier, but we offer this at around half the price, with the target market segment being accessible luxury, and the core audience being millennials, which are both not properly served in the current marketplace. Our Trustpilot ratings from customers and our Glassdoor reviews from employees are currently the highest in the industry globally, well ahead of competitors both in the high street and luxury brands such as Tiffany and Cartier. The brand is driven, as I said earlier, by the principle that we firmly believe that a gift you made means more than one you bought off the shelf. Just want to give quite quickly a little bit of context into the market background. The fine jewelry industry is worth over $300 billion, and we believe that it's ready to be disrupted. We also think that jewelry should be an expression of your story, not another brand story. I think that for generations, you have had to buy the same ready-made jewelry as everybody else in order to express something that we think should be personal, unique, and individual to you. Luxury brands boast of the long history, and I think they're finding it less effective, especially with millennials. The expectations of millennials are not properly being addressed in the current market. At Vashi, we're revolutionizing customer interaction by inviting you to co-create your own jewelry in cutting-edge workshops inside the stores with the experts, being the jewelry makers, sat by your side. So we're based in tradition, but reinvented for now, making truly personal jewelry available to anyone and everyone. To give a bit of context, we believe that Vashi has the potential to do to the jewelry category what Airbnb did to hotels, which is upturn the current consumer proposition, give a better, more authentic personal experience. In other words, create an entirely new and better way. Our industry is growing, our model is differentiated, our business is young, but has the potential to become a category leader. And whilst our vision is unique, it translates across geographies, cultures, age, and gender, which creates an exciting future with immense global potential. And finally, we are committed to building an enduring brand. The business has delivered 10 times sales growth in the last 3 years. 2016, our revenue was just over £4.5 million. 2019, it was 46 million with 25 million EBITDA. I think the business is proven post-COVID. After the initial shock of lockdown, our flexible omnichannel model allowed the team to increase our online sales from 60% to 100% as the stores were closed, and rapidly rebuild sales thereafter. Sales are now firmly ahead of 2019, and we continue taking market share of retreating competitors. This is just to summarize, this is a tech scale-up company anchoring physical retail for trust and credibility. It is based on a new mindset that a gift you made means more than one you bought off the shelf. The proposition resonates well with millennial consumers, and we think that we are uniquely placed to replicate that tenfold growth rate over the next 4 to 5 years, thanks to the responsive culture of high adaptability, innovation, and the high quality execution of the team. We have an experienced management team and a world-class advisory board to take the business all the way to exit. In terms of the current round, we launched this round in October for £45 million of growth capital to consolidate our position in the UK market and invest in the capacity required to meet our growing demand. In just a few weeks, we've already secured £17.5 million. I think that it's very important for all of us that the business continues to grow fast, as we believe that scale is our strongest barrier to entry. And we are expecting to exit probably to a trade buyer, but possibly also financial buyer in the next 4 to 5 years. That's the end of my presentation. I want to thank you all very much for listening. Special thanks to Shalini and the rest of the team. Our CFO, Charles Leach, and myself will be delighted to take your questions. Thank you.
Vashi, thank you so much. That was very, very insightful, and huge congratulations how you've created such a omni-channel approach to people buying diamonds, which you know me, I love them. So you've done incredibly well, especially during the COVID period. I'm going to ask everyone to start thinking about the Q&A. We're going to do a poll in a second. So basically, please put up your hand if you've got a question. And Stephen, our CTO, he's going to make you live. But can I just kick off, Vashi, whilst we're bringing up the poll with a question about your management team? We've got Charles here, who's your Chief Financial Officer, but who are the other people involved, and maybe one or two of the investors? It'd be nice to know if you're willing to share some of the names.
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of kind of what we call leadership, so senior management, on branding, we have Rich Ascott, who is our Chief Brand Officer, who used to be head of digital at Dunhill. He also he was the CEO of Just So, which is a content agency that does the content for brands like Apple and Diageo. And then we have underneath a big brand and content team. On digital, our Chief Digital Officer is James Wintle, who formerly was Chief Digital and Technology Officer for Victoria Beckham, Kath Keystone, and All Saints. On product, our Director of Product is Liz Olver, who used to be Creative Director for Anushka, the jewelry brand. On HR, we have as HR Director Harriet Moss, who used to be HR VP for 11 years at Hugo Boss. Then obviously we have Charles as the main person in finance. We also have as Chief Customer Officer Simon Thompson, who is the Chief Customer Officer for the whole Fortnum Mason Group. And prior to that, he was the Director at Richard Herring Group of Brands. In terms of investors, as you know, Shalini, we have a broad range. We have a lot of family offices, and we have very significant strategic investors as well in the UK and overseas.
Thank you very much. That's very, very helpful to understand. And tell me, I mean, one of the things that we were chatting about recently is, you know, when buying diamonds, buying online, is that going up? You've obviously noticed that's going up during COVID, but generally, do people like to come into a store, or they're happy to buy an engagement ring these days because we're in the internet and e-commerce world? What's your sort of experience with that?
Yeah, so I think, thank you, Shalini. I think the traffic online in our category continues to grow, but the actual conversion online doesn't grow proportionally, right? So I think the model is very much, you need to have a highly scalable funnel online, because if you're a traditional retailer relying on footfall from the streets, you're going to struggle these days. But then you need to have stores, because this industry is driven by trust and credibility. And the stores are where you can build the consumer confidence and provide the experience. So the model that we have, which is we acquire users online, we funnel them to the stores. That's where we build the trust and credibility. And then from there on, we turn them into customers. We think it's what works best.
Thank you very much. Great. And I really appreciate that. And I'm just going to ask you about your previous fundraisers. You talked about this one, the most recent one being a 45 million fundraise. You've raised already in a very short period of time, £17.5 million. Historically, this year you've raised money, and we supported you as well in a previous fundraiser. Let's just talk through the fundraising history. And are you happy to talk a bit about the valuation of the business as well, Vashi?
Yes, of course, Shalini. Charles, do you want to take this one as CFO? Thank you.
Yeah, so we the current round is at a pre-money valuation of 200 million, and the last round was at a pre-money valuation of 164 million. So that's where we are today.
Thank you. And how much did you raise historically?
So as you say, we actually raised 18.5 million in the last round, which was a 25% oversubscription against our targets. But overall, we've raised close to 100 million over the whole history of the company in all forms of debt and equity.
Okay. And when did the business kick off?
In 2007.
Okay. So in a short period of time, it's got to a very decent valuation. I'm going to, Dinesh, the media's got a question. I'm going to ask Stephen to make him live, and then we're going to do the poll. So if Dinesh could be made live, that would be good. And in terms of vision of expansion, either Vashi or Charles, where do you think? Do you think you're going to have stores in different parts of the world, or are you focused on the UK? What's the game plan in terms of geographical growth?
Yeah, thank you, Shalini. I mean, we're focused in the UK for now. We just think that the current landscape is quite challenging with COVID and everything else going on. But we believe that we will consolidate the UK by 2022, at which point we plan to expand internationally. After the UK, we're planning to go to the US, but very specifically to New York City. So although the concept has global appeal, we're also very mindful that expanding internationally brings a lot of complexity. And what we want to do is go after big cities where we know that we can build up quite rapidly a scaled up business, whilst also concentrating management, inventory, as well as driving marketing power. After that, we plan to launch into Japan close to 2024, at which point we expect to exit to one of the big luxury conglomerates. After exit, then we plan to do a global rollout.
Thank you. I'm going to see if Dinesh, are you available?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dinesh. So,
Yes.
Dinesh,
Okay.
thank you. Dinesh founded eBookers. He's an active member of E2E and a huge supporter of entrepreneurs. Great to have you on, Dinesh.
Well, thank you, Shalini.
Hello, Dinesh.
Actually, I won't take too much of your time, but I mean, I'm sort of might be giving you old stuff, but with the advent of websites like Blue Nile, diamonds became quite easily bought online at wholesale prices, but that should have promoted internet sales. Having said that, you make jewelry out of diamonds and then sell, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So that's no competition to you then?
No, not at all. So as a customer, you come to the store, you can sit down with the designer, and then once you have the design, in-house inside the stores, we have full set workshops. So we have casting, model making. So we can go from creating from a design on a paper to a finished piece of bespoke jewelry in 4 hours. And you can sit down with the makers. You can participate in the making as well. And then we have a technology that's recording everything. So at the end of your purchase, you also get a film as well as a beautiful book capturing the entire journey. So
and
the whole concept is that.
Yeah, sorry. Could you put that online too? Because you could work with someone for 4 hours.
Yeah, you can put it online as well. We're launching live video streaming. We just feel if you look at businesses like Blue Nile, and Blue Nile is an example of a business that executed very, very well. You know, they got to $500 million and they hit a ceiling, right? Because they already had around 26% of the online market share in the US. In our category, whilst 98% of searches begin online, only 8% of consumers are buying in stores. So I think if you don't have the physical component, but equally, we don't believe in the traditional retail model of hundreds of stores and high operating costs.
When I started selling travel, it was the same thing. 7 out of 8 people went to a store, but they started online. But it became much less, I mean, from 7 to 6 to 5 to 2 bought in stores. So this will happen, I guess, to you too, I guess. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Dinesh. Pleasure to meet you.
And great question, Dinesh. Nice to see you. We have a gentleman, Sanjeev Kanore, again, huge supporter of E2E. Sanjeev, lovely to have you there. I'm just going to say he's asked for a copy of the presentation, so we will circulate tomorrow to everybody who wants it, a copy of Vashi, of your presentation. We're going to do the poll in in a second, but there's lots of businesses who sell jewelry. The question that's come in the Q&A is what makes you different? We know about the omni-channel approach, Vashi. What is it? And maybe it's about you, your execution, but what makes Vashi growing so quickly in comparison to other jewelry brands?
Sure. So I mean, look, we call ourselves the first modern jewelry brand. So what makes us unique as the only company in the world is what we call co-creation, which basically means that you can come into our stores, you can sit down with the designers and with the makers, and they can create the piece of jewelry right there in front of you in record time. But you as the customer can sit down and participate in the making. You can set the diamonds, you can polish the ring, you can resize the piece. You're not going to do a great job if you don't have experience. And that's why the makers are sat with you to finish the piece of jewelry. But the whole purpose is that a gift where you have put your time, your effort, and you've participated in the making has a much significant emotional power than a gift that you buy off the shelf. And then we're doing that, remember, because of our online business, sitting in the stores that are next to Tiffany, Cartier, Louis Vuitton, and supplying the same quality with the whole customer experience at half the price.
There you go. If you want diamonds at half the price of Tiffany and everyone else, I think you need to be talking to Vashi. So hopefully you'll have some investors from today, Vashi, but for sure you will also have, I think, some customers So I'm going to ask for the poll, and I'm going to say thank you very much. It's a huge pleasure working with you. Wishing you continued success. And there's questions coming through, but we're going to be running out of time. So we will follow up with you, but hopefully tomorrow.
Perfect. Shalini, thank you very much. Thank you so much to everyone. Really appreciate it.
Stay on while we do the poll.
Yeah,
the poll is just going to come on. Stay on for 1 minute for the poll. Stephen, would you mind to launch the poll? Should come in 1 second. Great. So guys, the questions are, how do you view spending in luxury goods, in the luxury goods sector? Spending will reduce, will continue to appeal to certain customers, or consumers will seek better value? So you pick one of those three. Number two, how do you view the image of the luxury jewelry sector? Again, selecting one. Good and operates well as it is. It's a little bit old-fashioned, or it needs modernization. And thirdly, regarding the current investment opportunity with Vashi, which one of the following applies best to you? I'd like to make an offer. I'd like to arrange a personal call with the company, or I'll come back and consider this at a later date. So you have to pick one of those three again. So please do take a second to answer the questions, and then we can follow up with whoever would like to meet with Vashi and have a chat with Charles and Vashi, and anybody who'd like to make an offer. And if you'd like to come back later, also please let me know. We won't share the results right now. We'll share the results with Vashi later on. But would you be kind enough to fill it in really quickly? We'll just leave it up for 2 seconds. So Vashi, Charles, thank you very much, and we will see you soon. I know you, Vashi, I know you've got to go off to something. Charles, you're welcome to stay. We have Werqwise pitching next. We have my chairman's business. So let me just introduce Werqwise. So Alan Mackay, you can see Alan on the panel there. Alan is the chief executive. We've been friends for a few years now, and it's all due to the introduction of Daryl Eales. For those of you that don't know, Daryl Eales is my chairman. He actually helped me to start E2E when I was an investment director at LDC far too long ago, and I can see Naveen Cookbooth as well, who is the chief financial officer of Werqwise. So they're British people who are now living and working in San Francisco. They've done, as I mentioned in my introduction, incredibly well to bring it the business in their first year of trading to $7 million of sales. They have big ambitions to grow Werqwise, firstly throughout San Francisco and then internationally. And I've had the pleasure of working with Naveen, or Nav as I call him, for quite a long time, because I started working with Naveen in 2008 when we were both at LDC. So it's great to have Alan and Naveen, and I think Daryl is in the background. So Daryl, hope you're doing well. I know you've just got back from San Francisco. I'm looking forward to seeing you, but this is a chance for me to publicly say thank you to Daryl for helping me start this business. I think we're making a change for entrepreneurs, and it's really nice to be supporting some of the fundraising. So I'm going to hand over now, if I may, to Alan and to Naveen.
Thank you, Shalini. And I think you've got the slides coming up as well, right?
Yeah, the slides will come up as well. Yeah.
So I mean, good evening, everybody. Appreciate you all taking the time. And Shalini, it's been great sort of working with you and the E2E over the last year or two. Werqwise is a flexible workspace business. We've only got 15 minutes, so we're going to focus on how we're different. A real relentless focus on the member experience, combined with strong investment and operational discipline. All we do is governed by how do we make our members more successful. So performance, the smart workplace for our members, hospitality, creating those experiences for our members and their people, and creating that workplace of the future. Next slide. I'm Alan Mackay. I've been in the industry since 2013. I profitably grew Compass offices to 14 cities, 47 locations, and $50 million of revenue.
Yeah, and I'm Naveen Kugputh. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
So I'll make sure that works, yeah. So yeah, I think Shalini's already introduced me, but I spent 10 years in private equity working with Shalini and Daryl at Lloyd's Development Capital, and then worked with Alan at Compass offices. My job is to bring kind of investment discipline into our operations and the way we allocate capital. And also, you've heard lots about Daryl. We're very lucky that he's our chairman too, Shalini. He's our largest investor, but I think the most important role he plays at Werqwise is that he is the chairman of the investment committee, which decides which new locations we open. And we'll come on to that more later. Next slide.
So the industry is rapidly growing. I'm sure you've all heard about it. Pre-COVID compound annual growth rates of 20% have been going on for many, many years. COVID has actually been a millennial scale event. Every single person everywhere is rethinking their real estate. So with the industry in the flex workspace industry, predictions are 21+% growth next year in 2021 and accelerating from there on. The competition isn't IWG or other operators though, it's conventional real estate and that change that needs to come in the world of conventional real estate. Next slide. I'm sure you've all seen and all read about this change to the dispersed workforce. All the data points to the future of work being dispersed, but that means many, many different things for different people, for different functions. But people really want to keep that HQ experience. They want to keep that connections, and companies absolutely need to, and they can't afford to compromise on their brand to do it. Next slide. We've talked already about putting the member at the center of everything that we do. It's very easy to say, but we've got to actually really make it real. So if we think about hospitality, we're thinking about it so you don't have to. But what does that mean? Well, look at COVID and the changes we had to make in the space, or we chose to make in the space. Biosecurity, temperature gates, touchless environments, self-cleaning surfaces, increased airflow, social distancing, workforce planning. The list goes on and on and on. It's about us to take that as an outsourced solution and really deliver on it so you don't need to think about it. Next. People want flexibility during uncertainty. There's no news there, but the standard offering, that glass box or the solid box is such a big compromise compared to your own conventional leased office. Oftentimes too big a compromise. Next. We need to be able to quickly do this. And we did do this. This is a glass box office. This happens overnight. And it's about, if this is the design that you want, it's about how do we make sure that it really feels like yours and engages your people. Next. We have our own proprietary modular build systems that allow us to do this. We can change the office size, the shape, the color, the lighting color, power outlets, data, an infinite number of different ways that can then be done very quickly, very easily, overnight, without specialist contractors. Next.
And so this feeling that we look to create in our members, we're providing bespoke experiences, and we're always looking to understand how we're making them feel. We measure through net promoter scores and surveys, but I wanted to give you a specific example of my friend Sean. So Sean is a self-confessed curmudgeon, the kind of guy you really don't want to run into on a Monday morning. But after an event that we did, he sent us an email that really is how we want to make people feel. And I'm going to read it out at the bold bit if you don't mind. So he says, the event was yet an example of how Werqwise differentiates. Everything you guys do is first class, and it makes our experience here a joy. Having been in other environments, it's easy to compare how your model has a positive impact on everything, from recruiting to growth flexibility to just getting through the daily grind by taking a tangerine break in the kitchen. Your whole team works hard each day, but it shows in the results, and it's very much appreciated. And that is the feeling we're trying to give our members. Next slide.
Our member base is very, very broad. Yeah, many large companies there with Roche and KDDI and Procter & Gamble. with good credit and very stable organizations. Often they're innovation arms, but many rapidly growing companies. And it's about balancing both and ensuring that we can connect the right organizations to each other to further support their business as well. Next. We've talked about being innovative now. That's all well and good, but it's up to us to make sure that our members stay ahead in this race for workplace performance, in this battle for the right people and being able to attract and retain them. We have our academic advisory board. Some of the world's top intellectual leaders from UC Berkeley, they're specialists in workplace exhaustion, in contaminants, in productivity, and in connections. And all of them feed into our product and making sure we deliver that to keep our members at the forefront of the workplace. Next.
So we've talked about the member experience. Now going to move on to some of the more investment and operational things that we think we do differently. So from an investment perspective, we're always running a pipeline of real estate opportunities, but we allocate capital like a private equity fund. This is where Darryl's experience is so important. We have key criteria, namely a payback within 3 years on each location, an IRR above 40%, and break-even occupancy of less than 60%. Just to give you an indication, our current location, the one I'm sat in now, has a break-even occupancy of 43%. And our second location, which is in build, has a break-even occupancy of 33%. So our goal is to exceed this criteria. We run a full investment process, which Shalini will be very familiar with, in terms of our papers and how we have a robust debate on every location. But I think that just means that we're very focused on doing the right deals. It's not about a dots on maps strategy. It's about providing great experiences and a strong return on capital to our shareholders. Next slide. So let me tell you about the first location, and I want to talk a bit now about operational discipline. So as Shalini said earlier, in our first year of operation, full year of operations for our first location, we did 7 million of revenue. Our location margin was 40%. And as I said earlier, this location breaks even at 43%, and we're actually running it in Q1 of this year at 98% occupancy. We're on a run rate for 8 million of revenue in 2020, and then COVID happened. Next slide. So this year, rather than doing the 8 million, we'll do 7 million. And many people in our industry have struggled to collect money. We haven't. We've had no bad debts and only a few settlements. And that's because we're so close to our members. We know them well, we're involved in their businesses and in what they do. And we have mutual respect, which allows us to speak and help each other. We've helped some of our members through this. They've helped us too. Our location margin this year will therefore only be 36%. And San Francisco, for those that don't know, is in one of the longest contiguous lockdowns on the planet. Our occupancy, even though footfall is near zero, as you can imagine, because people aren't using offices much in San Francisco right now, our occupancy is at 61% from the 98% at the end of Q3. And again, I tell you these numbers just to show the relationships that we have with the members. Our second location was supposed to open earlier this year, but opening a location in the middle of a pandemic is not too wise. So we've moved that out to 2021. Let me tell you a little bit about the next location. So next slide, please. So location 2 is in San Mateo. On this location, we're actually going to have an indoor-outdoor lounge, which is very fortunate given what people are looking for post-pandemic. But essentially, this is a landlord partnership. So a huge component of the rent is dependent on our revenue, which means we can achieve a break-even occupancy of 33%. To give you an indication of how low that is, our first location has never been below that since its second month of operation, including during the pandemic. In this location, we'll have to invest 1.4 million. It'll make a contribution of 36%. It'll pay back within 20 months, and it'll be a 67% IRR and a 7.4 times cash multiple. These deals are available for people in California, particularly, who are willing to partner with landlords. And what the pandemic will do is create numerous opportunities to partner with landlords. I mean, our phones are hot at the moment with landlords calling us looking for solutions. And our goal is to provide a mutually beneficial solution. Next slide. These are our growth plans. So our goal is to get to 12 locations by 2024. So this is very manageable growth. We're very focused on getting it right. They'll all be in California and mostly in the Bay Area. We will look to open a beachhead in LA in 2022. And we think we can build a business that will generate 88 million of revenue and 36 million of EBITDA, and be broadly profitable throughout. And I should say that we're profitable in our first full year of operation, and we've been profitable in the COVID year too, at the bottom line, not just at the location level. And again, that just demonstrates how we run this business and how we think this business should be run. Next slide. So we're raising 20 million in this round. The timing is the end of Q1 21. We're probably going to do it in 2 tranches of 10 million. And as I said, you know, we think we can build a business that does 36 million EBITDA and capture the massive post-COVID opportunity, we think, through the move to a distributed workforce and through the leasing opportunities that will be available with landlords. And we think, you know, from an exit perspective, using relatively sensible numbers of 8 times EBITDA, you know, we think we can have an exit valuation of north of 300 million at that point. For those that would like to know more, there's a full management presentation, detailed financial models, full data room, all that usual stuff. You know, we're very keen to talk to the E2E network through our relationship with Shalini and Darrell in particular. So we'd love to have people involved. So please let us know. And thank you very, very much for listening.
Nav, Alan, thank you very much. Well, one thing that comes to mind about when you mentioned investment committee, I think when I was at LDC, the LDC investment committee is run by Darrell. That's when I really learned a huge amount of how to invest. Yeah. And I think I'd be right in saying that the majority of the deals that he's ever put his hand to have resulted in a multiple return. So I think you've got a great investor there, a savvy one, and a great chairman. A few questions that are coming up in terms of in the Q&A. One of them is, what do you feel is the biggest challenge, Alan or Nav, to the business, and how will you? What's the solution to that challenge? Obviously, we talked a little bit about COVID right now. What do you foresee are the main challenges going forward?
So, short term and long term, as we look at the industry and as it exits COVID, it's about how do people respond to that. We're obviously working a lot on density and on product to ensure people are comfortable. As you look long term and you look at scaling these businesses, it's not a business that blitz scales well. How do we scale real hospitality? Ensuring that we get the right people and build the right teams to do it in the right steps, and keeping that discipline. As you get all of those teams in place, it's that is key to then delivering the experience that people are wanting when they're coming out of their conventional lease space.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And in terms of, it's a bit of a cheeky question, but we'll ask it. How do you differ from WeWork?
So, differentiation, there's a lot of businesses in this. Our focus is on the member. And it's about it being your space, not our space. Your company, your people, your culture. So how do we deliver what you need and support you in staying ahead of the changing workplace and what your people need? There is a great part of the market here that WeWork serves incredibly well. It's not us. We're into creating a different sort of experiences where it really feels like it's your offices.
Okay. Fair enough. Nav, anything else on that?
Well, definitely in the way that we run the business is slightly different. I mean, they tried to blitz scale, you know, which is understandable. And but the challenge you have in this industry is if you try and blitz scale it, you will waste money and you'll leave money on the table as well in terms of your real estate sourcing, and you won't get that back at the end. So for us, we're very focused on doing the right deals. It's not a land grab. We're not going to be the biggest. I think your partners are probably going to be the biggest. So we'll try and be the best instead.
I'm sure Richard's nodding in the background at IWG. So that's very interesting. So there is a question here: is why San Francisco? Why did you choose that geography? And do you plan to expand? You know, you've talked about the next phase of expansion mainly being in San Fran. Do you plan to be in the UK? Do you plan to be in Asia? You came from Hong Kong. You were in Hong Kong for so many years. What's the thinking? And why San Francisco?
So when we exited from Compass offices, Naveen and I, and we looked to set up this business, we looked at markets all over the world. There were some very special market dynamics here in San Francisco that allowed for the sort of returns and margins that we've returns and margins that you've seen that we're demonstrating there. The San Francisco market was actually behind the curve compared to many of the European markets. That was why we initially set up here. But if you look at my experience and Naveen's experience, a lot of it has been about internationalization of businesses, taking them into new countries and new areas. And as Brits, yes, UK is very much on the radar. And we have looked quite deeply at the UK market.
Okay, so is the answer that you might come here, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. We are London and the UK.
Like Alan says, there's great economies. There's diseconomies of scale in this business when you get too big. You lose the hospitality side. So our goal is to cluster, but we are getting investor pools into London in particular, as you can imagine, and it's a market that we know well. So yes, I imagine that there's a chance we could end up there, but our goal would be to kind of stay here and just keep it nice and tight. But the investors might decide otherwise. Let's see. Okay.
And now the next question is really about the equity structure. I don't know if you're public on the valuation right now or the equity structure, and how much is the sort of minimum investment ticket that someone might be able to put in?
Yeah, so the last round, which was funded the second location, was done at a pre-money of 35 million. We've not yet finalised the terms for the Series A. We're still waiting on a lead investor to do that. My sense is it'll end up around 60 million, but let's see. And that'll probably be in the form of some sort of convertible note. So I think there will be a liquidation preference for the investors. And then in terms of minimum sizes, it's for E2E members, it's negotiable. We want as many. It's the kind of business that benefits enormously from having a strong network of investors who are spending time thinking about the business, and many of our members in our spaces will be connected to our investors. So it's something that we encourage.
Thank you, Nav. Thanks. That's very, very, very clear cut. Alan, I'm just going to ask you, as the CEO, what do you enjoy the most about running this business, and what do you find most difficult?
It's amazing. I enjoy most the connecting with the different businesses and the members and what they're doing here in the space. We have got such a diverse group of companies and people within the space doing all sorts of interesting things and solving all sorts of interesting challenges. So connecting with them, talking to them, and thinking about how we really support them and help their individual businesses is what gets me excited about it.
Great. And what keeps you up?
What keeps you up? How do you do that for so many businesses, to be honest? How do you make sure, how do we scale that experience across all of our team and make sure all of our team is as excited and supporting all of our members in the same way that Naveen and I are across different geographies and different locations?
Okay, and there's a sort of a further question in terms of the properties. Are you leasing them or do you own the properties?
So we're leasing them. The first location in San Francisco is a conventional lease with fixed rent. The second location is a variable lease with a revenue and profit share.
Okay, and is the model to continue to lease properties, or will you look to purchase outright?
So Naveen, maybe you want to pick up on this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we have had people kind of approach us about doing that, and there's definitely an opco-propco structure that benefits the operating business and the asset owner. So I think it's something we could look to structure and look to do. I guess neither me and Alan are real estate investors in that sense, so we'd need to partner with people to help us do that. But there's definitely a structure that would work for the operating business and the asset owner, and we're kind of pushing towards that in terms of our variable leases and the conversations that we're having with landlords.
Okay. Thanks.
But we're not scared of leasing. That's why we're so focused on the break evens. I'll reiterate, people have been told they can't use our space for about 8 months, and we're still at 61% occupancy. So I'm not scared about a 43% break even occupancy. You see, but that's the way we structure our deals. We don't take risks on that.
Okay. And the final question that's come through is who's on your? I know that Daryl is the chairman. Who's on your advisory board? Just really quickly, and then we'll move on to the poll.
So the advisory board is Dr. Gordon Rouser, who UC Berkeley, and was one of the deans over at UC Berkeley, also runs his own hedge fund. Christina Banks runs the Center for Healthy Workplaces here. Christina Maslach, who was she did the Maslach burnout indicator, is a psychologist and head of the California Psychologist Society, and Alan Goldstein, who works on the workplace contaminants, and Derek DeFries, who is Chief Internal Counsel for 500 Startups, the largest accelerator here in the Bay Area.
Okay. Sorry, we've got one more, which is from Dimitri Hastas, and Dimitri Hastas is one of the investors and sits on our advisory board. He's asking, is the investment happening in the UK or in the US?
It's a very good question. So obviously the goal is to build the business in the US, but we are actually a UK company. So our holding company, because we have many international investors, is a UK company. So you'll be investing in a UK company, but obviously broadly taking US risk.
Thank you very much. Nav, Alan, thank you. It's really fun. It's a pleasure working with you both. And Daryl, thank you for bringing the opportunity if you're still there. I'm going to move on to the poll, and we will be in touch with the results of the poll soon. Okay, so enjoy your evening. You're kind of, well, afternoon. You're 8 hours behind us, I think.
Yeah, we got the rest of the day ahead of us. So, yeah.
Thank you,
right.
Shalini.
No, thank you so much.
Thanks, Shalini.
Thank you. See you now. Bye, Alan. And the questions are flexible workspaces a part of your office real estate strategy? Yes, it's already. Yes, not currently part of your real estate strategy and is never going to be. So pick one of those. Next question is, has COVID affected your use of flexible workspaces? Answer is, it has increased my usage, it has decreased my usage, or it's not affected your usage. Final question is, regarding the current investment opportunity with Werqwise, which one of the following applies best to you? I would like to make an offer. I will consider at a later date, or I'd like to arrange a personal call with the company, with Nav and Alan. So again, please pick one of those. That will be running for a few minutes in the background for you to make those choices. We'd really appreciate if you do fill that in for us. And I'm going to quickly move on to introduce Jim McCall OBE and Rod Ashley, who are the Chief Executive and owner of Alba Bank. Before I do, I'm just going to bring up one poll quickly, which is our E2E poll, to give us feedback on what more we can do to be of assistance to you. So Stephen, would you mind to bring that up really quickly, and then we'll move on to Jim and Rod. So these are quick questions, quick fire. I'm interested in E2E because the events are very informative. I make valuable, high quality connections. I make use of the membership benefits, or none of the above. Which of the following services listed below would you need the most? Business services, e.g. lawyers, accountants, etc. Receiving flexi mentoring, finding a non-executive director, meeting like-minded people, fundraising, offering your services to our members, none of the above. Number 3, which of the following services would assist you? I think we're missing some of that question there. Real-time private market data, sales intelligence software, digital marketing support, web hosting and development, customer relationship management software, startup and SME data intelligence, reducing your software overheads, or none of the above. Question number 4, what's your key challenge in terms of digital marketing? You don't have a skilled team, don't have enough of a budget, don't have a structured approach, or I don't know how to leverage IT effectively in terms of digital marketing, or all of the above. Number 5, are you interested in practical and structured training for digital marketing? It's either yes, no, or maybe. And number 6, would you benefit from discounted access to physical or virtual offices packages, meeting rooms or business lounge access in the UK? Yes or no? Are you interested in a discounted membership to the Confederation of Business and Industry? So at the moment, we're offering 6 months free on that. It's a few £1,000s. So yes or no? And when do you think you'll be able to attend a physical event again? Later this year, Q1 next year, or later than Q1 next year? So just if you quickly fill in the poll, we'd really appreciate that. And I'm now going to ask to put the spotlight on Jim McCall, OBE, and Rod Ashley. I just want to say a little bit about Jim. We've known each other since 2010 when I came up with the idea of E2E, and I nicked the idea from the Entrepreneurial Exchange in Scotland, because I went to a few of the events and Jim was very heavily involved in that. They had a very close community of entrepreneurs, all of whom that was supporting each other. I was blown away with the way that Jim was involved in that and how much he supported it. And Jim, this is my chance to say thank you for mentoring me and supporting our growth and giving lots of advice over the years. Jim McCall's involved in many different businesses, but his main one is Clyde Blowers, and he has a passion for finance and actually bringing better levels of financing and a better experience for entrepreneurs. I haven't met anyone as passionate about banking and finance than Jim and Rod. So Jim, thank you. And I've got to know Rod Ashley very recently. He is the amazing chief executive of Alba Bank. So I'm going to ask you both to have your 15 minutes and chat, if I may ask you. I think, Rod, are you speaking first, or and then we'll unmute you. We just need to unmute you. Great.
How was that?
That's it. You're on now.
Shalini, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'll just start my stopwatch, or else it could be prone to go over, and I don't want the bell to ring at the end of the session. So if we could have the first slide up, thank you. Just to set the scene, and then we'll go on to talk about the story of Alba and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve, because it's banking, it's about stories, it's about people. Alba Bank is a new UK bank starting in Scotland specifically for SMEs. The project began back in April 2018. We're at the stage now where we have all regulatory sign-offs complete, and we're looking to raise regulatory capital full launch. We have 5 million investment in the business today to raise a further 5 million in exchange for 47 of the company. I'll just wait for the slides to catch up.
Okay. We can bring the slides up now, Stephen. I think, Rod, maybe you carry on while he's bringing the slides up. There might be some technical.
Maybe I can introduce, talk about why we set up the bank whilst we're getting the slides up. Okay, we've got the slides up. Well, back to you, Rod.
Right. Thanks, Jim. And thanks, Sean. So the story behind Alba Bank and the history of this here goes way back in banking times. From 2013 onwards, myself and the team were running the last remaining trustee savings bank in the UK. There's a tradition of savings banks and supporting local communities and local SMEs that goes back well into the 1800s. And this was the last remaining bank of there, a pillar of its community operating in the local environment. We went there with the intention of obtaining some investment, building out the new IT, really promoting the delivery of the new service, which is what SMEs were really looking for. It was governed by a very ancient Act of Parliament, and for various regulatory reasons, not least everything else that was going on in Parliament, a private Act of Parliament would have been needed to amend it. That wasn't the case, and the Bank of England effectively invited ourselves to submit a new bank application for a new startup bank. And it was Jim and I that had met with the Bank of England in order to do that. Jim had approached me saying that this was such a good concept. How did we take it forward? How do we expand it out? How do we grow it? Not just Scotland, UK wide. And that was what we set out to do. So we set out to establish the new bank, started on a new journey. Now, the key thing that Alba sets out to be here is high tech and high touch. The challenge that we're getting back from SMEs at the moment, directly to us and from our own experiences, they are remote and they're disconnected from the incumbent banks. They've felt that decision making is centralised, too far away from them. Very often, certainly in the Scottish case, very often it's centralised. In England, maybe further south, or even further away from them, the communities with large contact centres for making that sort of decision. What they were lacking was some sort of local community presence for people who actually understood their business. The current incumbents in the current COVID situation are also currently snowed under dealing with C bills and B bills, and indeed don't actually have any time for any business as usual or for their other customers who aren't in this piece at the moment. And that's what gives the advantage, I think, to Alba coming to the bank at this point in time. There's a disenchantment with the current incumbents. There's a requirement to get back to something which is more local, which is more within their community. And as you can see from the slide there that's now come up, Alba is planning to place much more emphasis on character, capacity, and cash flow than where the incumbent banks are going to be. Decision making in Alba is based on knowledge of the customer, not on algorithms to actually make the decisions for you. And Alba's got that community aspect to it that's coming through. We are, as I say in the slides, a traditional bank because we're going to be using bank managers with a new proven end-to-end banking technology that will effectively enable the bank to be on a laptop and able for the bank to go out with my team to visit the customers, to understand their business and to actually be more of a human face of banking in the way that used to be the case. But now the incumbent banks are moving further and further away from that. Now we have to be nimble, we have to be innovative in order to make that work. But that's exactly what we're looking to do now. We're planning to make our decision making based on the knowledge, and also we are challenging the old decision making models. These decision making incumbent banks at the moment are backward looking. Therefore, they are unable to be able to deliver inclusiveness and diversity as we move forward because these qualities were not originally in such backward-facing models. And that's the challenge that Alba's meeting head on and moving forward with. Now, we plan to deliver this service through pods, and there's a kind of nice map there of the United Kingdom emanating out from Glasgow from a Scottish phase down. And that's also another of our USPs. We are taking a north to south approach on this. So it creates a point of differentiation for us. There's plenty of that. We saw the slide earlier, which was very helpful to see that the UK is very much a centre of new bank startup. Most of these are, though, based in London and emanating north and reach probably as far as Manchester. But not necessarily too much further than that, whereas our speed of influence will be specifically emanating out from the Scottish base, Northern Ireland, down into the English regions, and then beyond, so that we can take in the area around London and the southwest as we want to be doing that. We're applying our core values. Now, Jim and I worked on these: probity, prudence, and trust. These are the key things that have really been missing from banking in recent years. In fact, and Jim will talk more about this later, no doubt, if he's asked. He went back to the founding of HSBC, and these are very similar principles, very, very back in the day to what the banking industry was built on there, and indeed the savings bank industry from which Alba is descended was built on exactly the same things. These trust, prudence, and probity, which have been so missing from so much of the banking that we've got in today's society. So moving on then to look at the established team. We have, and I'm building a small, no, not another slide, sorry, could we go back a slide, thank you. I'll tell you in a second when we get to the next slide. First of all, I'm reminded why the name Alba. So Alba means a number of things: bright, white, or new, potentially. But interestingly, it's also a Gaelic word meaning Scotland. So there's two kind of meanings there around the Alba Bank: a new bank on the horizon, and the DNA back to the Scottish base from where we're going to be established. Our core team established at the moment: all bankers, commercial director in place, CRO in place, CFO in place, CEO in place, focus on development, focus on education. Also, already well-established governance set out with a board team, chairman, we've got a designate chair of audit committee, a chair of risk and compliance committee. So very well-formed governance, which is required as part of the process that we've been through with the Bank of England and the regulatory background. And we also uniquely, I think, for a challenger bank, have a set of founder shareholders who are extremely supportive of the business and drawn from the Scottish banking, from successful Scottish business people. And Jim has really brought these individuals to the table, introduced them to Alba, introduced them to me. And their whole raison d'etre was also to say, we need a new bank in Scotland, let's get it established, and it can be UK wide. Let's move that out. And we have 11, 12 founder shareholders, all committed and engaged on that basis. And that's why, partly through E2E, the Alba model fits very nicely with the network that Shalini's got and built out from E2E. We want to keep that kind of investor involved in Alba because we think they recognise the same community, social, important governance, the trust and everything that was talking about is the same values that the sort of network that E2E is, and Alba wants to be associated with coming through there. Sean, if we could move to the next slide, thank you. So a little bit on the numbers, but plenty more of that in data rooms and information memorandums, but just a few key high-level numbers to tempt you with this evening. We've got an ambitious plan to lend over 4.8 million over a 10-year period, involving an investment ultimately of 300 million to get to that stage. This would equate to roughly 3% of the UK SME loan market, and we believe that's a reasonable target over the current 10-year period to get to that. And Alba is going to benefit coming to market with a fresh balance sheet versus its peer set. We don't have a back book that's beset by technically, model issues or IFSR 9 issues. We're coming to the market. We will be coming to the market post-COVID at a very good time to see how the environment's going to be able to help the SMEs, because they're going to need our help. I think we can all agree as we're coming through, and a friendly banking partner will be absolutely critical to their success. The plan also provides attractive results for investors. There's some there. I can provide more detail after the event. And we're looking at possibly a trade sale or a listing in years, probably beginning in year 4, probably taking place in year 6 or 7, potentially looking at that at the moment in terms of an exit route for an investment at this point in time. Sean, the next slide, thank you. So the key investment summary for Alba Bank. We've made strong progress to date on securing a new banking license, i.e. all regulatory sign-offs achieved. Looking to get the regulatory capital in now as the final element. Seeing good demand for external finance from SMEs that we're talking to, and we think it will be significant through the economic recovery post-COVID. And as in any economic downturn, new players are emerging and scale rapidly due to changing market conditions, and Alba's primed to take advantage of that. So we've got summarised 4 or 5 points there on the slide as to why we think we've got the advantage here, including our key market technology and the demand for loans increasing as we're going through, and the fact that we're well set up to start off with. Sean, and the final slide. So the investment summary, really what are we looking at the moment? And in the Q&A, we can talk on this a little more detail at the moment. We're effectively looking to raise 4.65 million, buying 47% of the equity, which is giving a post-money valuation of 10.7 million. 2 or 3 points. There isn't any other challenger bank, we believe, that's managed to reach mobilisation at close to this particular cost base. The team that I've assembled is very knowledgeable in banking and the regulatory environment, and we've actually been able to do all this work ourselves in order to keep the costs down and to bring the bank in a lean and efficient way to full authorisation. And we've also taken the same approach over the first 3 years, where we build out the bank on a firm and prudent basis, getting the right level of quality of credit onto the balance sheet, working with the right customers in the sectors to provide the assistance that Alba's going to do, and then providing a larger scale up from years 4 to 6 onwards. And that ties in closely with regulatory scrutiny in terms of what the regulator terms as faster growing firms, trying to make sure we do everything carefully, prudently, and in the right manner. We expect the bank to be in the mobilisation phase, which is where we're just about to head now, a restricted banking licence for around 6 months. And we're going to require a further 21.8 million, which was the first 12 to 18 months capital to build that out. The bank reaches monthly profitability in year 3 and annual profitability in year 4. And in accordance with many banks in a similar capacity, it takes around about 100 million of capital investment to reach that profitable point. And we're very much along with the peer set in that kind of environment there. And that happens over the 4 to 5 year period. And we proposed the pre-money valuation at that stage being a little bit higher. And the final slide in my last 30 seconds, thanks, Sean, is really just the summary. Not that I wanted to put up necessarily a picture of Jim and myself, but by a happy coincidence, the last slide is just a summary of myself as the CEO, Alba Bank, and my founder shareholder, Jim McCall. And we'd be very pleased to take further questions and discussions with anyone who is out there this evening. Thanks, Shalini.
Thank you very much, Rod.
10 seconds to spare.
Yes, and then we've got just a few minutes. So I just want to kick off. I think Joe Smith's got a question, and I think Tony Banks has got quite a few questions, but we may have to take his questions offline. They're all very interesting questions. So, Joe, do you want to come on live? Whilst you're doing that, can I just repeat what you're doing is you're raising at a 5 million valuation. So you're giving it's 45% equity in the business. At the 4.5 million fundraise. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, but at the moment, Shalini, we're valuing the business at 5.7 million, and we're looking to raise 4.6 to 5. You know, we're happy to take a bit more, and it's for 45% of the business. But just to underscore what Rod said, you know, we've got this to where it is for a quarter of the cost of any other challenger bank that's got to the same stage. So, you know, to be able to get 45% of this bank for 4.6 million is way better than you could get with any other challenger bank. And that's because we've got a really good team that have done all the groundwork. They've not gone out to outside consultants or hired people in, you know, to do all the paperwork. They've got a very good working relationship with the PRA, very good knowledge of the regulatory requirements, and have been able to do that for a low cash burn.
Okay, no, I think it's a very interesting valuation, Jim. So I'm going to ask Joe Smith. Joe, are you there?
Yep. Hi, Shalini.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Rod.
Hi,
Joe.
Oh,
Hi.
1 minute. To do the call,
okay,
so
I'll try and speak quickly. Just to say, fantastic idea that you've come up with for the bank. A lot of small businesses that I've seen over the years have said that they've basically gone under because of the bank. So I think what you guys are doing is just fantastic. My question is, how would small businesses like me get involved with the bank, and how quickly? Because it's just a great thing that I would love to get started with.
Well, you know, we're looking for the regulatory capital to go into mobilisation. As Rod said, that's usually about 6 months. So it'd be 6 months before we would be lending or taking deposits. However, we are looking at a model that we're allowed to lend before we come out of mobilisation. We're not allowed to take deposits, and we are looking at speeding that up so we can lend to small businesses. But, you know, the idea is that it's high tech. You've got all the advantages of plug and play for the fintech solutions that are out there, and there are a lot of them. So our IT model is built so that you can plug in different fintech applications, and it's seamless to the customer, the SME. And our goal is to not just provide financial services to them, but help them with their financial health. Because if we get good data analytics and we're able to use very good fintech applications, and there are lots of them out there. Would be very selective in what we use that would be helpful towards the SMEs. But I think this whole industry is going to change dramatically in the next 18 months. And I think we've got a unique model here where it is high tech, but you will be able to speak to a relationship manager who will have access to the back office with the data analytics and all of that to help your business and help you. And what to do is make an investment in us and then borrow lots of money from us. You know, we want a lot of people to engage with us, and that's one of the attractions of E2E. They've got 23,000 members. What we want to do is be lending money to these small businesses, and you know, we'd like them to be in the family and be part of the team going forward. But we will be looking day one for a good amount of lending. We're looking early on to be able to lend 50 million kind of day one. So we want to establish relationships over the next 6 months with businesses so that we can build up this potential loan book and get started as quickly as possible.
Fantastic. Oh, well, all the best with it. And thanks very much for getting it going. And thanks for allowing me to ask my question, Shalini. Great event as usual. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great to see you. Well, Jim, I can say there's messages coming through on my WhatsApp saying it's a very, very decent valuation, and the opportunity to have a stake in a relationship bank, especially during this type of period when people can't access finance. It's an exciting opportunity, and we've got John McGlynn is in the background, Mark Beaumont, who you might know, who's the world leading cyclist, he's online. We've got a lot of people from different parts of the world, and nice comments are coming through. We've got Sanjeev Kanoria, we've met Dinesh Damija. I'm just sharing some of the names of people who are asking questions. There's Lucio Santoro, and Mira and Lucio, they're investors in E2E, so really nice comments coming through. We've run out of time, I apologize. So guys, if you want to put the questions forward on an email to me, I'd be very happy if Jim and Roger are okay to take them separately, or set up some calls that way. And I think we should finish off, if we may, with the poll, which is the poll for Alba Bank, and we are excited about working with you both as the bank goes across the UK. And I agree with you that this is the main thing, is working with networks, us and others, to make a difference in terms of lending to small businesses. Jim. So first question on the poll is, how do you view the UK SME lending market at the moment? Please select 1, good and operates well as it is. The market is concentrated around the major high street banks or needs modernization. The second question, as an SME, what would I like most from my bank? And again, choose one of them: better access to finance, a bank that understands my business, or less banking administration. Thirdly, regarding the current investment opportunity with Alba Bank, which one of the following best applies to you? I'd like to make an offer. I'd like to arrange a personal call with the company, or I will consider it at a later date. So please have a think about which of the answers to that. We'll have it running for just a second. I want to say a huge thank you to also my team. There's Sean, Stephen, Dana, Urdu's our investment manager. So Ismail, I won't name everybody, but we have now a big team of around 30 people at E2E. So thank you to all of you for helping to put this event together. And it's exciting the way forward. But I just want to finish off with what I began. It's only by supporting one another that we can really grow the economy and continue to be great employers. So we hope you join us on that journey. Next week, on the 25th of November, we have an evening with Lord Lee of Hurley. He is the founder of Cavendish Corporate Finance. He's the treasurer of the Conservative Party, and with the president of the CBI, Lord Bill Moray, who also is a founding board director of E2E. So we've still got a lot of people online. Thank you for taking your time. I hope you're going to have a glass of wine and mull over whether you would like to put a little bit of money in all of the companies or pick one. And any introductions you could potentially make. So I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a different event. Richard, thank you again. And to Deal Room and to Doug, thank you, to IWG and Deal Room for partnering with us, and Vashi and
And
Werqwise.
thank you, Shalini.
Thanks, Shalini.
See you guys. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.